The night clung to Manhattan like a heavy coat, thick and unyielding. Sirens wailed through the streets, a sharp, jagged sound that sliced through the hum of the city. Outside the gleaming tower of Johnson and Hart, one of New York's most prestigious law firms, chaos reigned. Red and blue lights pulsed across the glass facade as an ambulance screeched to a halt, medics spilling out in a blur of motion. Camera flashes popped like gunfire reporters swarmed, shouting over each other, their voices a frantic chorus. Is it true? Did Tom Johnson cover up a murder? In a shadowed alley just a block away, Mary Johnson stood alone, her silver hair glinting faintly under a flickering street lamp. She wore a gray janitor's uniform, the kind you'd see in a dive bar bathroom, not near a billion-dollar empire. Her hands trembled as she clutched an old flip phone to her ear, her voice low and urgent. Tommy, listen to me. Someone knows the truth about your father. If we don't act fast, this family's done everything we built, gone. She snapped the phone shut, her sharp eyes darting toward the chaos. A faint smirk tugged at her lips. They don't see me. Good. Inside the firm, the scene was no less electric. The open-plan office buzzed like a kicked beehive heels, clacked against polished floors. Papers rustled, and voices overlapped in a crescendo of panic. The CEO's coming tomorrow. A junior associate barked, his tie already loose. But what's this crap about a murder? I didn't sign up for this. Another voice cut in, shrill and edged with fear. They're saying Tom Johnson's tied to some old case. Someone died and he buried it. Amid the frenzy, Mary slipped in unnoticed, pushing a cleaning cart piled with rags and a beat-up mop. Her cheap sneakers squeaked faintly as she moved. Her head bowed just enough to blend into the background. She grabbed a rag and started wiping down a desk, her ears tuned to every word. They don't know a damn thing, she thought. Not who I am, not who Tommy is, and definitely not what's coming. A trio of young lawyers, sharp suits, sharper tongues huddled nearby, their laughter slicing through the tension. One, a brunette with a smirk as cutting as her heels, spotted Mary's scratched-up watch. Oh, look at this, she sneered, loud enough for heads to turn. Grandma's rocking a thrift store special. What's next, a knockoff Chanel mop? The others cackled, pointing like kids at a zoo. Mary kept wiping, her face blank, but her mind hummed. Keep talking, princess. You're digging your own grave. Before she could decide whether to play along or snap back, a new voice cut through the noise, clear, cold, and commanding. Cheap doesn't define worth. You'd know that if you spent less time flapping your gums and more time winning cases. The room stilled. Amelia Hart strode forward, her dark hair pulled tight in a no-nonsense bun, her hazel eyes blazing. She was all angles, sharp cheekbones, sharper wit, and she carried herself like she owned the place. The trio shrank under her glare, muttering excuses as they slunk off. Amelia turned to Mary, her expression softening just a fraction. You okay? Mary nodded, a small smile curling her lips. Fine, dear. Thanks. She watched Amelia walk away, her mind racing. That one's got fire. She might just be it. As the office buzzed back to life, one question hung in the air, unspoken but heavy. If Tom Johnson isn't who they think, then who's really pulling the strings? The morning sun sliced through the Manhattan skyline, but inside Johnson and Hart, the air still reeked of last night's chaos. The sirens had faded, the reporters had retreated to file their stories. Yet the office hummed with a restless edge. Over steaming coffee cups, staff traded hushed theories about the elusive Tom Johnson. He's got a show today, right? A junior associate muttered, his tie crooked from nervous tugging. But this murder rumor, him not sticking around if the ship's sinking. Another voice piped up, jittery. What if he's some psycho? I didn't sign up for that. Mary Johnson wheeled her cleaning cart through the maze of desks, her gray cap pulled low, blending into the background like a ghost. No one spared her a glance. She was just the old janitor, invisible with her mop and rags. But her ears caught every word, her sharp eyes clocking the nervous glances and whispered clicks. They're rattled, she thought, scrubbing a glass table with slow, deliberate strokes. Perfect. Chaos shows the snakes. Shed barely slept, her mind replaying that alleyway call to Tommy. His father's death wasn't just a skeleton in the closet, it was a live wire, and someone out there knew how to pull it. Shed find Tommy a real ally, Someone to weather this storm or die trying. The elevator pinged, cutting through the buzz like a gunshot. Heads swiveled as a guy stepped out, Tommy Hart, or so he claimed. He didn't look the part of a law firm drone. Faded hoodie, ripped jeans, a beat-up messenger bag slung over his shoulder. His blue eyes swept the room, bright but guarded, like a poker player hiding a flush. "New intern," he said to the receptionist, his voice casual, almost lazy. "Where do I park?" She blinked, thrown off by his vibe. Over there, HR will sort you out." He nodded, flashing a lopsided grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mary paused, her rag hovering over a smudge. There he is, she thought, a flicker of pride mixing with worry. Tommy was no intern. He was Tom Johnson, her grandson, the heir to this towering empire. She'd raised him after his father's suicide cracked their world apart, a death he still carried like a stone in his chest. "Us here to fix what killed his dad," she mused, watching him weave through the crowd. But he's dancing on a razor's edge. Amelia Hart caught sight of him from her desk, arms crossed, her hazel eyes narrowing. She'd been saddled with the new Guysom suit's idea of punishment, probably. "You're Tommy?" she asked, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. He nodded, pulling a thick, sealed folder from his bag, case X scrawled in faded ink across the top. He dropped it onto her desk with a thud. "Got this from upstairs," he said, leaning back like it was no big deal. "No clue what it is, you?" She frowned, flipping it open. The first page stared back, legal gibberish, redacted names, and a single line that made her gut twist. "Subject deceased under suspicious circumstances." "This looks ancient," she said, her fingers tracing the edges. "Was it my problem?" Tommy shrugged, his grin teasing. "Beats me. Am the grunt, you're the brains, right?" She shot him a look, half irritated, half curious. "If you don't know, why should I trust you with it?" She fired back. But something about him too calm, too quick, itched at her. He's not what he seems, she thought. Nobody's this chill in a place like this. Before he could answer, a shadow loomed over the desk. Lucy Carter strutted up, her blonde hair gleaming, her heels clicking like a countdown. She was all sharp edges and sharper ambition, the kind of lawyer who'd claw her way to the top over anyone's corpse. "Well, well," she said, smirking at Amelia. "Stuck with the intern? Guess you're still scraping the bottom, Hart." Her eyes flicked to Tommy, sizing him up. "And you don't get cozy. This firm's for closers, not coffee runners." Tommy didn't blink. "Funny," he said, his voice low and steady. "I bet the boss likes people who think over ones who kiss ass." "What do you think, Amelia?" Lucy's smirk twitched, but she held her ground. "Dream on, kid," she snapped, then turned to leave until her gaze snagged on case X. Her hand darted out, quick as a snake aiming to swipe it. Tommy's arm shot forward, pinning the folder to the desk. "Touch that," he said, his tone suddenly cold, "and you'll regret it." Lucy froze, her eyes narrowing. "Who the hell do you think you are?" she hissed, yanking her hand back. He leaned in, just enough to make her flinch. "Someone who doesn't like sticky fingers. Try it again, and we'll see who's dreaming." She glared, a flush creeping up her neck, then stormed off, muttering curses under her breath. Amelia watched the showdown, her pulse ticking up. Has not just some intern, she thought, her mind racing. Has protecting this thing like it's gold. She turned to him, voice low. "What was that about?" He shrugged, the grin back like nothing happened. "Just don't like bullies. You good?" She nodded, but her eyes lingered on him, suspicion brewing. Later, as the office thinned out, Lucy lingered near the copier, her fingers drumming a furious beat. She'd seen Case X before years ago, buried in the firm's dusty archives. Johnson, she thought, a slow grin spreading. If that's tied to the big guy, I'm holding the keys to this kingdom. She pulled out her phone, dialing a number she'd kept on ice. "Layla? It's Lucy. We've got a shot at Tom Johnson. Meet me tonight, bring your claws." Meanwhile, Mary rolled her cart past Amelia's desk, accidentally nudging it. A single page slipped from Case X, fluttering to the floor, a faded police report, cryptic and stained. "Oh, my bad," Mary muttered, bending to grab it. As she handed it back, she leaned close, her whisper barely audible. "Watch yourself, girl. Some graves stay buried for a reason." Amelia's breath caught, the warning sinking like lead. "What do you mean?" she asked, but Mary was already shuffling off, her cart rattling. She glanced at the page-redacted names, a date from decades past, and that damn Johnson scrawled in the corner. This isn't random, she thought, her stomach nodding. It's someone's secret and it's big. She looked up, catching Tommy's eyes across the room. He gave a small nod, like he knew more than he'd ever say. Tommy watched her back, his mind churning. She's too close, he thought, his grip tightening on a pen. Case X isn't just Dad's death, it's the firm's dirty hands. If she digs deeper, she'll hate me for starting this. Outside, the city pulsed, oblivious to the fuse had lit. Inside, the shadows of Case X stretched longer, pulling them all toward a reckoning none could escape. The Johnson and Hart office simmered under a gray afternoon sky, the tension from yesterday's chaos thickening like a storm about to break. The whispers about Tom Johnson and some buried murder had metastasized. Half the staff swapped wild guesses over lukewarm coffee, the other half hunched over desks, praying the rumors wouldn't tank their paychecks. Amelia Hart sat rigid at her station, Case X splayed out like a map to nowhere. She'd spent the morning dissecting its cryptic pages' redacted names, that haunting line about a suspicious death, and Johnson scrawled like a taunt. This isn't just old, she thought, her pen tapping a restless beat. It's alive, and it's clawing at someone. Tommy lurked near a water cooler, pretending to fiddle with a stack of memos, but his eyes kept darting to Amelia. She was unraveling Case X faster than he'd expected, and it gnawed at him. She's too damn smart, he thought, his jaw tight. If she ties this to Dad, she'll see me for the fraud I am. His father's suicide still cut deep, a note seared into his brain. The firm broke me, Tom. Don't let it break you. Had walked in here to burn out the rot that killed his dad, but now Amelia was tangled in it, and every lie he'd told her felt like a brick on his chest. I can't lose her, he thought. Not to this. A courier barged through the bustle, shoving a plain envelope into Amelia's hands. No sender, just her name in blocky scrawl. She ripped it open, and a single sheet slid out. Drop Case X, or your family pays the price. Her stomach lurched, her fingers trembling as she stared at it. Who knows I'm digging, she thought, panic spiking. She glanced at Tommy, his calm facade cracking just enough for her to notice. You okay? He asked, stepping closer, his voice too steady. She stuffed the note into her pocket, her eyes narrowing. Fine, she said, but her tone was steel. Just junk. But someone knows him on case Zani chance you're tied to that? He blinked, caught off guard, then shrugged. I'm just here to help, he said, too smooth. She didn't buy it. He's dodging, she thought, suspicion flaring. Too slick for an intern. Before she could push, her phone buzzed her mom, voice frail as tissue paper. Amelia, the surgery's urgent. 30 grand, honey, we're short. Amelia's throat closed. He'll get it, Mom, she whispered, hanging up with dread pooling in her gut. I can't fail her. Across the room, Lucy Carter smirked like a cat with a fresh kill. She'd met Layla last night in a grimy Hell's Kitchen dive, plotting over stale coffee. I've got forged emails to pin a leak on Amelia, Lucy had said, sliding a USB across the table. Shell crash and burn. Layla, sleek and venomous, grinned. Perfect. Tom's mine. It'll bury anyone who tries me. She texted a sleazy tabloid stringer. Johnson and Hart's hiding a murder. Blow it up. Lucy's eyes danced. You're a shark. I love it. By dusk, the bomb dropped. Screens lit up with a screaming headline. Law firm scandal. Did Tom Johnson bury a body to build an empire? The office exploded. Phones pinged, voices clashed, and panic swept through like a tidal wave. This is nuts, a paralegal yelped, scrolling furiously. They're calling the CEO a killer. Another muttered, I'm out if this tanks, my mortgage won't wait. Amelia stared at the screen, her pulse hammering. Case sits this, she thought, dread sinking in. She turned to Tommy, who'd gone ghost pale, his fists balled under the desk. You know something, she said, her voice low and cutting. Don't lie to me. He met her gaze, steady but strained. It'll help you figure it out, he said. Trust me. Trust you, she thought, bitterness rising. You're a puzzle I don't trust. Lucy sauntered over, her heels clicking with smug rhythm. Rough day, Hart, she sneered. Digging old files doesn't pay, huh? Stick to the minors, leave the big game to me. She leaned in, mock pity dripping. Press is circling. Hope you're clean. Amelia's jaw clenched, but Tommy cut in, voice icy. Funny, Lucy. The boss might not like people stirring crap for clout. Watch yourself. Lucy laughed, but her eyes sharpened. Too cocky for a nobody, she thought. He's hiding something. As the office emptied out, Mary rolled her cart past Amelia's desk, her movements slow and deliberate. She slipped, knocking a pen to the floor, and with it, a folded scrap from Kasiga, a faded receipt stamped with a name, J. Carter. She picked it up, handing it to Amelia with a murmur. Don't trust everything you see, girl, she whispered, her eyes glinting. Some snakes bite quiet. Amelia froze, the paper burning in her hand. What's this? She asked, but Mary was already gone, her cart rattling into the shadows. She unfolded it, Jay. Carter, 50K transfer, dated the year of the death in Case X. Her mind raced. Carter Lucy? Or someone else? She looked at Tommy, hunched over his own desk, his calm a mask she didn't trust anymore. He's part of this, she thought, her stomach twisting. But how deep? Tommy slipped into the parking garage that night, his breath fogging in the chill. He dialed James, his voice tight. The press is on us, Layla's work. Come in tomorrow, play the CEO, throw them off. James chuckled, smooth as ever. Messy, Tom. You sure? Just do it, Tommy snapped. She's in too deep. I can't let her get hurt. He hung up, running a hand through his hair. Amelia, he thought, guilt gnawing at him. She's chasing ghosts I buried. If she finds out who I am done. Back in the break room, Amelia sat alone, the second threat note trembling in her fist. Back off, or Mom's next. She dropped it, her hands shaking. They know her, she thought, terror clawing up her spine. Case X, the press, Tommy's dodge, everything was closing in. She glared at the receipt from Mary. J. Carter. Answers or bait? Outside, the city lights flickered, cold and uncaring. Inside, the walls of Johnson and Hart tightened, a trap snapping shut around them all. The next morning broke over Johnson and Hart like a fever dream. The tabloid leak had turned the office into a war zone. Phones wouldn't stop buzzing, interns scurried like rats on a sinking ship, and senior partners snapped at anyone within reach to clean this up. Amelia Hart sat at her desk, her hands steady, but her mind a storm. Case X lay open, its secrets taunting her, but the threat notes weighed heavier. Drop it, or your family pays, and back off, or Mom's next. Shed barely slept, her mom's frail plea for surgery money, 30 grand looping in her head. I'm running out of time, she thought, her nails digging into her palms. Tommy lingered near the copy machine, his intern act fraying at the edges. He'd caught Amelia's sharp glance last night, the way she'd asked if he was tied to Case Zand. It rattled him. She's onto me, he thought, his gut twisting. His father's death haunted every move he made here, a suicide he'd blamed on the firm's greed, a note he couldn't unsee. The firm broke me, Tom. He'd come to gut the place clean, but now Amelia was in the crosshairs, and his lies were a noose around his neck. If she finds out I'm Tom Johnson, will she stay? He wondered, or hate me for dragging her into this. The elevator dinged, and James swept in 6 feet of polished Armani and cold confidence. He carried himself like he owned the world, his dark hair slicked back, his voice cutting through the chaos. Listen up, he barked, clapping his hands. I'm Tom Johnson, your CEO. This press mess ends now. Do your jobs. Keep your mouths shut. The room stilled, awe washing over the staff. Lucy Carter practically floated forward, her smile syrupy. Mr. Johnson, it's an honor, she cooed. I've admired you forever. James nodded, playing the role Tommy had fed him. Perfect, Tommy thought, blending into the background. Keep their eyes off the real me. Amelia didn't bite. She stayed rooted, her eyes on Case X, the receipt from Mary J. Carter, 50K, burning a hole in her mind. If he's the CEO, why's Tommy acting like he knows more, she thought, suspicions simmering. She caught him watching her, his calm a mask she didn't trust anymore. Lucy struck at the afternoon all-hands meeting, standing before a packed conference room with James at the helm. I've got news, she said, waving a USB drive with a smirk. Amelia Hart's leaking client secrets. Here's proof. The projector flared, flashing fake emails with Amelia's name stamped on them. "She's a liability," Lucy crowed. "Mr. Johnson can't trust her." Gasps ricocheted around the room. Amelia shot up, her chair screeching. "That's bullshit," she snapped. "I'd never—" But the whispers drowned her out, eyes pinning her like a specimen. James raised a hand, cool as ice. "Well, look into it," he said. Lucy grinned, but Amelia's blood boiled. "She's framing me," she thought, "and I'm hitting back." That night, alone in the office, Amelia cracked Case X wider. She found a photo of a man slumped in a car, gun in hand, dated 20 years ago, and cross-checked it with Mary's receipt. Johnson, J. Carter. A payoff? She passed the break room and froze. Tommy's voice slipped through the cracked door, tense and low. "James, Layla knows about Case X," he said. "If she talks, the family's toast. I can't keep lying. She deserves better." James's reply was smooth. "You sure, sir? It's a mess." "Sir," Amelia's heart slammed against her ribs. She edged closer, barely breathing. "I don't care," Tommy said, his voice steel. "Amelia gets the truth. I'm Tom Johnson, the real one. This intern gig was to sniff out the rats, but it's over." Her knees buckled. "Tom Johnson?" The dots connected. His smarts, Mary's hints, their quickie wetting under her fake heart scare. "He's been playing me," she thought, reeling. The next day's emergency meeting was a powder keg. Layla burst in, all venom and Versace, a recorder in hand. "Tom Johnson killed to keep his throne," she declared, hitting play. A warped voice, Tommy's, or close crackled. "My father had to die to protect this secret." The room detonated. Staff shouted. Amelia swayed. "He's my husband," Layla added, flashing a fake marriage certificate. "A monster." Amelia's voice broke. "Tommy?" she whispered, staring at him. He stood, face ashen but firm. "She's lying," he said, stepping forward. "That's doctored. Here's proof." He pulled a tablet, playing a video. Layla splicing the audio in a hotel room, laughing with Lucy. "Nice try," he said, his tone glacial. "But I'm the best lawyer here. You forgot that." The room gasped, Lucy blanching. Then the hammer dropped. Tommy turned to James, still smirking at the table's head. "You're next," he said, his voice ablade. "I traced the threats to Amelia's mum, your burner, your prince." James' grin vanished. "What?" he stammered, but Tommy pressed on. "You pushed my dad to kill himself, James. You bled this firm dry for cash, then sold me out to Layla." He tossed a stack of records, embezzlement proof onto the table. A memory flashed. 16-year-old Tom, sobbing at his dad's funeral, James' arm around him. "It'll protect you, kid," James had said, his voice warm. "Now," James laughed, cold and hollow. "I protected you to keep this seat your dad was in my way, and now you are." Tom's eyes hardened. "You're not family. You're the enemy." Security stormed in, cuffing a raging James. "You can't," he yelled, but Tommy cut him off. "I just did." Lucy lunged, desperate. "I didn't," she started, but Amelia stepped up, her voice iron. "Save it. Here's your leak, your metadata, your login." She slid a laptop forward, exposing Lucy's digital tracks. "You play dirty? I play dirtier." Lucy and Layla were hauled out, shrieking as the room fell silent. Mary appeared at the door, her floral dress a stark contrast to the chaos, her eyes glinting. "Knew that snake James was rotten since your dad's last day," she said, voice steady. "Justice is done, Tommy." Tommy faced the staff, his voice unwavering. "I'm Tom Johnson, your CEO. I went undercover to fix this place. My dad died because of rats like them. Amelia's my wife and she's my rock." He looked at her, pleading. She stared back, hurt clashing with love. "He lied, but he fought for me." Amelia clutched Case X, her mind a whirlwind. Tommy approached, tentative. I tried to tell you," he said softly. "I was scared you'd bolt." She swallowed hard. "I need time, Tom." "But I'm not bolting." Relief washed over him, and she saw the man beneath no mask, just scars and hope. Outside, sirens wailed not for death, but for reckoning. The masks were off, and the truth stood tall at least for now. The storm at Johnson and Hart broke, leaving a quiet that felt almost alien by the next afternoon. The office, once a battlefield of shouts and schemes, hummed with a subdued rhythm. No more Lucy's clacking heels, no James's barked orders, No Layla's venomous swagger. The cops had dragged James off in cuffs, his embezzlement splashed across the news. COO sinks firm in greed. Lucy and Layla were ghosts now, their careers ashes after their own fire. Staff shuffled past Amelia's desk, heads low, voices soft with guilt. "We didn't know, Mrs. Johnson," a paralegal mumbled. "Sorry for the mess." She looked up, her gaze steady. "It's not about sorry," she said, her tone firm but kind. "It's about doing better. Remember that?" Tom Johnson, no more Tommy, no more masks, stood in the corner office that once belonged to his father. The Manhattan skyline stretched beyond the glass, a glittering sprawl under a golden dusk. Had ditched the hoodie for a tailored suit, but the weight of yesterday clung to him. "Dad's got justice," he thought, tracing a finger over a faded photo on the desk came at 10, his father beaming beside him. "But I nearly lost her to get it." Amelia's words after the meeting lingered. "I need time, Tom." He'd laid everything bare, his real name, his father's suicide, the lies and shit stayed. That was more than he dared hope. Amelia stepped into the office, Case X still under her arm like a battle scar. She paused, taking him in Suet sharp, eyes softer than she'd ever seen. "So this is the real you," she said, her voice steady but warm. "No more intern act?" He turned, a faint grin breaking through. "That guy's gone. Meet Tom Johnson, CEO, husband and idiot who thought he could hide this from you." She didn't laugh, but her lips twitched. "You're lucky I don't bill you for emotional damages," she said, setting the folder down. "But you stood up for me out there. That is something." He stepped closer, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. "It's not enough," he said, opening it. Inside shimmered the heart of liberty, a sapphire necklace that glowed like a captured flame. "Got this in Paris before the chaos hit," he said, fastening it around her neck, his touch light. "It's not a fix, it's a vow. You're my freedom, Amelia, not my chain." She touched the stone, her breath catching. "I don't need rescuing, Tom," she said, her eyes locking with his. "Never did." He nodded, a spark of pride in his gaze. "I know, that's why this place is yours." Her brow furrowed. He gestured to the office. "I'm stepping back as CEO. You take it. I built this to save Dad's name, but you'll make it honest better than I could." Her jaw dropped. "Tom, that's..." He cut her off, gentle but sure. "You're the toughest, sharpest person here. I trust you with my legacy, my life. Run it." She stared, then a slow smile spread. "You're crazy," she said, but it was laced with steel. "Okay, but no more games," he grinned. "Promise." That night they drove to Mary's Brooklyn brownstone, the city fading into a warm blur. She met them at the door, her janitor disguise swapped for a floral dress, her grin slow and knowing. "Well, you two made it," she said, pulling them into a dining room thick with the scent of roast chicken and fresh rolls. They sat and Mary poured wine, her eyes piercing. "Tommy, you're your father's son," she said, her voice softening. "Strong but brittle. That firm broke him, don't let it take you." She turned to Amelia. "And you're the anchor. Hold him tight." Tom squeezed Amelia's hand under the table, his throat tight. "I almost lost everything, Grandma," he said. "Dad's gone, but she's here. That's what matters." Mary nodded, then leaned back with a twinkle. "Good. Now about those great-grandkids, not eternal, you know." Amelia sputtered into her wine, cheeks flaming. "Mary!" Tom laughed, the sound free and light, cutting through weeks of shadows. "One empire at a time, Grandma," he said. "We'll get there." Midway through dinner, Amelia slipped away, a sudden queasiness hitting her. In the bathroom, she gripped the sink, staring at her reflection, pale, wide-eyed. Just nerves, she thought, but a whisper of something else flickered. She returned, brushing it off when Tom asked, "You good?" "Yeah," she said, forcing a smile. "Long week." Mary caught it, though, her lips curling into a smug little smirk. She sipped her wine, thinking, "Oh, he'll be right soon enough." Later, they stood on their penthouse balcony, a new perch above the city's glow. Amelia leaned against the railing, the heart of liberty glinting at her throat. "So," she said, her voice teasing, "from coffee runs to king of the hill. Guess I married up." He pulled her close, his laugh warm against her ear. "Nah," he said. "I did. We don't need crowns to run this. Amelia, just each other, when it all falls apart." She tilted her head, her hand brushing her stomach absently. That's the real empire, isn't it? She said, her tone soft but sure. Not the money, not the name, just who's still standing with you. He nodded, his eyes bright. Exactly. That's us. A breeze swept through, carrying the city's hum and a quiet promise. The chaos was behind them, and ahead lay something stronger, built not on secrets, but on the ones who stayed when the masks fell. As the lights twinkled below, the lesson of their fight settled in clear and hard-earned. Money could buy power, and names could open doors. But when the world crashed down, when lies burned and empires shook it, was the people who stood by you that mattered. Tom had learned it through his father's loss, Amelia through her mother's fragility. They'd face betrayal, unmasked greed, and come out the other side not with wealth or titles, but with trust. That was the truth they'd carry forward, compass for the road ahead, stronger than any crown.